Joseph Moreno. Joe, I want to get your reaction to something that the president tweeted. He said, "I never directed Michael Cohen to break the law. He was a lawyer and he is supposed to know the law." It is called advice of counsel, and a lawyer has great liability if a mistake is made. That is why they get paid. Does that hold water?
Well, I mean, this has been bubbling for a couple of days, and so we've kind of read between the tea lines of the tweets. This is where the defense was going, and sure enough, now it's explicit, right? Advice of counsel is a defense if, in fact, you can say you relied on legal advice to do certain things, and therefore I should not have criminal exposure because I relied on my lawyer who knew better, right? Now, a lot of things go into whether or not that's a legitimate defense, who knew what, who was warned, how involved was the president. I mean, he's clearly, you're right, beyond denying he directed these payments. I mean, that seems to be locked in by the evidence now. So whether or not he can thread this needle, that's going to be, no doubt, front and center in any kind of defense if this goes anywhere.
There's debate still over whether a president can be indicted. DOJ guidance is that they can't, but you have Congressman Adam Schiff who says, you know, this is something that the DOJ needs to revisit. Let's listen.
I think the Justice Department needs to re-examine that OLC opinion, Office of Legal Counsel opinion, that you cannot indict a sitting president. I don't think that the Justice Department ought to take the position, and it's certainly not one that would be required in any way by the Constitution, that a president merely by being in office can be above the law, can escape the enforcement of the law by essentially waiting out the law, by waiting out the statute of limitations.
And yesterday on this program, we had former White House counsel under Bill Clinton, Jack Quinn, who said he didn't think it would stand up in court if someone challenged this OLC guidance. What do you think about what Adam Schiff is saying?
Well, I get his points, but I'll say this first. I hate the term constitutional crisis. I think that term is used far too much in this town anytime there's any kind of issue. However, if you tried to indict and prosecute a sitting president, you would in fact have a constitutional crisis on your hands. You would throw the Justice Department into disarray. You would paralyze the presidency. So the idea is not to have anyone get away with anything, and the idea is that there should be some mechanism. So you shouldn't be able to use the presidency as a shield against criminal exposure. So something definitely has to be done, but in terms of just indicting a president, look, we have an impeachment clause. It's worked. We've seen it work with Bill Clinton. Obviously, he wasn't removed, but the process works for addressing wrongdoing by a president. Trying to indict a president would be extremely, extremely difficult.
All right, Joe, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Joe Moreno back with us now. How do you see this factoring into the Mueller investigation? Because when you read what's available, it's you try to read between the lines, but it's not a complete link in this picture.
Right. So there's a lot of reading between the lines in the Mueller investigation, right? Because it's ongoing, and we're sort of just waiting and waiting and waiting for some finality here. There's a couple of things we know, though. We know Russia interfered with the 2016 presidential election. We know that. We know that from our intelligence communities. We've known it for 2 years. We knew they used social media manipulation. We know they hacked. Now we know they had personnel. And I have no doubt there are other Maria Butina's, young men and women, out there doing the same kinds of human intelligence gathering that she was doing here.
Sure.
So whether or not there's a connection now, that's yet to be determined. But I have to think the special counsel is looking at this very carefully. It's probably not a coincidence that right around the same time Russia was doing these other things with relating to the campaign, she was conducting her activities and infiltrating the Republican Party at a fairly high level.
It's very interesting. Joe, thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.